Hey Sarah Beth. Alright, so here is your past life spread. So what we're going to do is look at where you were, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day with the relationship and feelings involved, another important day, the death, and the lesson learned. And usually we'll get hints of the time period, but where we're going, I'll let you know what's going on. We don't need that card for now. Okay, so all I'm going to do is relay to you the images and impressions that are going to be coming through or already coming through. And your job is going to be to try to make connections where you can, based off of what's going on here, what's coming out here, and your current life. And I'll try to help however I can with that, okay? All right. Okay, so let's start here. So where we're going, this is the Atlantis and Lemuria card. Okay, so a lot of times we get this card when it is going back to Atlantis, Lemuria, or other kinds of hidden places or places that no longer exist, or basically it's indicating an old soul. It's indicating someone who's been here before, and there's a lot of lessons when it comes to Atlantis and Lemuria. However, what I'm being pulled to immediately was Atlantis. And so what that indicates usually is like Atlantis is more of a masculine aggressive energy, bear with me, and then Lemuria is more of a passive feminine energy. Now what is interesting is when I was shuffling, I was getting this visual of a very peaceful coastline, very serene and peaceful, which would feel more like Lemuria to me, but as I'm going along, this feels like it's Atlantis, however, not the hub of Atlantis. It feels like it's on the outskirts, away from the city, away from the hustle bustleness of it, away from where mostly we say, oh, it's more of a masculine energy, or we would say aggressive. Aggressive doesn't mean violent, it just means more like outgoing or external, like more like blah, rather than passive. So bear with me. This also feels like we're looking at someone who's balanced energy as far as like gender goes. So right now at this moment, it's okay. Like I'm just feeling out, like, are we looking at a male or female life? Okay, so it feels like we're looking at a female aspect of you. However, the energy is so balanced and it feels like it's something that is normal where you are. So when I say we're looking at kind of like the back, like the outskirts of Atlantis or the back, it's almost like, let's say, we're going along the coast of Atlantis and here's the hub, and then you just circle, and on the other side, I don't want to say it's an island, but we for the sake of visualize an island, and let's say, the hub, the city, all the everything is happening over on the north side, and you're at the south end, and this is like where it's kind of like a fisherman community, or a community dealing with agriculture, more slow, more serene, more peaceful. And that's why I was feeling kind of Lemurian, because that's also a feeling of Lemuria. Now, these two places did coexist at the same time at some point, so it's very possible that there was interaction with Lemuria as far as your community goes. It feels like we're looking at someone who is part of a community that is kind of, again, on the outskirts, but part of a community. So it's a small community, and it's almost like they don't really partake in the activities of the central area or the main hub, if that makes sense. So I guess this is what you would call, in a nutshell, the countryside. I know it sounds kind of, weird or whatever, but that's what it feels like. And there is a coastline involved, which I feel is important because I feel like water is important. So anyway, certain connections you could be making to this already could be the idea of your gender, sexual energies being balanced, very balanced, knowing the part of yourself that has masculine tendencies, maybe even tomboyish growing up, the other part that's feminine, maybe you're exploring that as far as your feminine sensuality, sexuality kind of thing, the idea of God and goddess power commingling together, the yin and yang, the male and female. If this theme is in your life for any reason, and it could be more than what I'm saying, but if that theme of, again, sensuality, sexual energies if that's intriguing to you in any way, this would be a connection. This would be showing you where that might be coming from, because this person's so balanced. On the other side, on the other end, we could be making opposite connections, right? So you can make direct connections like that, or opposite, which would mean what you're seeing here, you in your current life could be experiencing the opposite, because your soul likes to experience different things. So this can also mean if you connect in the way where you are drawn to the masculine or feminine energy more fully and haven't explored or have not explored the other energy. Let's say you're just super feminine, super girly, and you, let's say, are like, well, I wonder why I don't have more masculine energy, or I wonder, that kind of thing. Or it could be completely opposite, where you're totally drawn to being a tomboy, masculine, and you're like, well, how come I'm not in touch with my feminine energy at all? What's up with that? So that's another way you can connect, where this person's so balanced. It was so balanced that at first I couldn't read whether it was a male or female, put it that way. But that's how you can make the opposite connection. It was so balanced that in your current life it could be completely, I guess, off balance. But if that's the case, it would just be coming up to show you that feeling off balance in itself is a lesson, and not something to be hard about to yourself. Like, not to, ponder and think, oh, why aren't I different, or I wish I was, that kind of thing. Just know it's because it's a lesson, it's something to experience, and it's kind of like the whole enjoy the journey, like more than the destination kind of thing. So enjoy the journey of that, if that's the case. So keep that in mind. Another connection would be this idea of this peaceable community, that's kind of, it feels kind of ho-hum. So that could mean a direct connection where you love the idea of being part of a community, rooted down, part of the land, loving the idea of always living in the same place and knowing everyone and being part of that. On the other hand, it could be the opposite, where you're someone that's like, I need to get out and explore, and I need to see the world and meet people and see cultures, and you know what I mean? So that would make a lot of sense too if you're like, I don't like being rooted down, I have trouble with commitment, that kind of thing, where people usually are like, why am I this way? Why can't I just, why can't I just settle down? It's not something to be hard about on yourself if that's the case. It's just your soul here was so settled in one place that it would make sense that if you do feel the need to travel, the need to not commit, the need to, and this can be with relationships. Maybe you have had several partners, or you have several partners, or you want to explore having other partners. That kind of thing is okay, because it's just this person was so like, this life was so, again, rooted in like one place, this small community, that your soul might ache or yearn to explore in all its capacity that it can. That's why you were born in this life, because in this lifetime, this timeline, we have the freedom, especially, women have the freedom to do things they couldn't do before, live on their own, have sex whenever they want, and whoever, and not get married, and not have kids, and da-da-da, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of freedom today in this timeline. It could be that you chose to come back to this timeline to explore that kind of freedom and independence that otherwise this person felt that they didn't quite have. But that would be the opposite connection. The direct one, again, would be wanting to just settle down, not really curious about, getting out there and seeing stuff. You're happy with what you're content, where you are, with what you have, who if you're in a partnership with that person, that kind of thing. So just play with that connection as far as the desire of freedom, independence, getting out there, versus, hey, I'm totally cool and content being where I am. I can see myself growing old here with this person or in this place, and that kind of thing. So keep that in mind. Now, you could still make more connections here, but we're going to go ahead and just move along. The card of what you do with the majority of your time, this is the Life at Sea card, and you were by the coastline, so I'm just trying to see what's happening here. Okay, so it's not, so with this card sometimes it's like, oh, life at sea, I'm a captain of a ship, or I'm a fisherman, or blah, blah, blah. Really what this is the life at sea is you're on the coastline and there are people in your community, you're part of a community that, again, feels a lot like I can't say it right, fishing community or a fisherman community, where they haul in the fish. In fact, it feels like their community is a really great resource where they send the fish in as an export to the main hub. This is a big fish community, and also it feels like agriculture as well. So it feels like a lot of this is on the coastline. So whatever they grow is feasible to being on the coastline and that kind of terrain. And this is not tropical. This feels like we're looking at like the coastline. It's not like super hilly. It feels like we're looking at like kind of like meadow or a plain or a, it's like long grass, soft grass. So it's not tropical. It's not even sandy. It feels more like a rocky coastline with grass, if anything, even though there might be a beach or something. It doesn't feel tropical. And it feels like you spend time outside doing something having to do with animals. It feels like you have really good control over something with beasts of burden. So, okay, so you're either, now, of course, this is a different place. I don't know exactly what animals they exactly had here, so it feels like something that would have to do with a horse or horses or pack mules or something like that, where you're really good tending to them and they also work in the field. But it's not like, I feel like you don't take them out to the field to do the field work, but you stay with them and kind of either train them or nurture and take care of them. So they kind of see you as their caretaker instead of like instead of their master. So they have a job that they do out in the fields, but when they come home, you're there to wash them and take care of them and feed them and nurture them and love on them. And so it's almost like a horse whisperer kind of thing. So a lot of times when we get people who are connected with horses in this way, it's an idea of someone who might need to, in their current life, if it's not already kind of pleasant and calm, this would be the idea of needing to learn to self-soothe yourself, or needing soothing in some way when it comes to a concept in your life or an aspect of your life happening, because horses have this energy of soothing. And that's what we get sometimes when horses come through is, oh, this person, you need soothing in some way in your mentality, or it's almost like if you're stressed out about something in your life, which of course everyone is stressed out about something, but this could be something that I feel like would be a pattern, or like you get spiraling thoughts about it, or it keeps coming up and it never really quite gets resolution, whether it's about how you think about yourself, or that you care about what others think about you in a certain way, or something going on where it's like a continual like pattern or spiraling thing that just keeps coming up and you can't quite conquer it in a way. So with that said, this would be a message for you, and it feels like the message has to do more with being gentle with yourself and being kinder to yourself, and not projecting things like we project on others kind of like as a mirror, and then we think that they're thinking these thoughts about us, but they're not. It's just us having these bad thoughts about ourselves that we project on others, and that we like see as others thinking about us, if that makes sense, and that's not the case. So if this makes sense in any way, if this connects with you in any way, it would be here. It's the horse energy coming through. This can also simply mean that you love horses and you feel bonded with them, and you feel like, even if you've never even hung out with horses, this might be a thing where it's like, hey, go pay to take a horse ride or be around horses to see how you feel when you're around that energy. It might be very interesting for you. Or you could already know that you're a total horse person. And if you're not at all, that's totally fine. In fact, if you feel like you're not connected with horses in any way, then it would revert to the first thing we're talking about as far as a message of self-soothing and allowing yourself to self-soothe, or be gentle with yourself, speak kindly to yourself. That inner dialogue is so important. Make sure your inner dialogue is at its peak form, because you have to be your best friend, because you have to live with yourself your whole life, that kind of thing. There's always going to be other people who have plenty of opinions, you know? But remember, those are opinions and those are other people. You need to be your best friend. So if you're not, then you need to start now. You need to start. And it could start with affirmations, which if you haven't done affirmations before, you know, like looking in the mirror, telling yourself you are wonderful, you are good, you are kind, you have a big heart, you're a great soul. If it feels silly or weird, you've never done that, that's okay. You need to start doing that, and it will feel weird or silly if you haven't, but keep it up and it'll start to feel natural and you'll start to believe it and see it for yourself. So that's what I feel like is coming out of that. Another is the idea of living by the ocean, the water. If you do, that makes sense. It feels like there's something very calming and soothing about that. If you don't live near water, this would be a message for you to get to the water, maybe on the weekend, jet away, whatever it is, and see how you feel being with yourself by the water. I'm not saying go party with friends. I'm saying go take yourself, maybe a girlfriend or whatever, to the water. Just to be there, meditate, sit with it, see how it feels, listen to the water, feel the water, let your eyes roam the water and get yourself lost in the water, become the wave. And if you've never done anything like that kind of meditation before, and it might sound silly, and that's okay, try it anyway. Water can be so therapeutic as far as when it comes to the self-soothing as well. Water is so soothing. Water takes stress away. Nature itself is a stress reliever, but some people are very particular about the kind of nature. So like, I'm a mountain girl. You put me in the mountains, I'm good, I'm set. But the beach, nah, I'm not a beach person, but you may be a water person. That might be very good for you. So keep that in mind. This can also mean, hey, if you've been thinking about jetting away for a weekend or getting away or whatever, go somewhere where there is the coastline. Go where you can see, where it's, you look out and you can't see anything but water. Just go. Like, don't doubt it, don't stall, don't put it off, treat yourself, and go. So we're going to go to the first important day. Keep making connections where you can here. Now, the first important day, there is death. So this is the there is death card. And that usually means that someone is dying or someone has died and you're either witnessing it or very aware of it or nearby. The relationship card involved is the spouse card. So the feelings with this is melancholy, loneliness, and it feels like what we're looking at is, it feels like we're looking at the death of someone very close to you. And I know it says the spouse card, but that can also mean someone who's your partner, or, it doesn't necessarily mean marriage, spouse kind of thing, but you think of them in the way of your husband or your wife or your spouse or whatever. And so it feels like there was some kind of accident or some kind of like something it feels like taken too soon. And so this person I feel like is very close, but again, I wouldn't quite say there was any kind of like ceremony, but it feels almost like an engagement. So it feels like it's like you're engaged to get married, if they had marriage back then, in this place. But it didn't quite get there, but there was this lovely union that was made, and then it was taken too soon. And so the result of that was this loneliness, melancholy, which is a cutoff of feelings. So this would indicate, if anything, if you can connect with the idea of, do you ever feel numb? Do you ever feel disconnected? Do you ever feel disconnected from emotions? Do you ever find that you might even do it in a weird, like, conscious way where, like, it happens naturally? So that would mean subconscious, like, oh, it's automatic, but you also are aware that it's happening. Like, maybe you even thought, like, oh, I should be feeling more, or, oh, I feel myself closing off, or, things like that. Or maybe you've even compared yourself to people who, like, you see people crying at something and you just are like, oh, should I be crying? Like, that kind of thing. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you if that's the direct connection you're making. It's not a bad thing. It's just showing you where it stems from. It's the idea of losing something so dear to you that the feelings are so hard and such a burden, and it's like so hard to process. Maybe you don't even know how to process it here at this point, that you just have to numb yourself in order to continue on and carry on with your duties and your daily life and this and that. So keep that in mind if that's the connection. But it could just be like, maybe you have a fear in your life that you don't know where the fear comes from of losing people you love. Like, are you paranoid about being protective about people? Are you overprotective of your loved ones? Are you almost, it could even be to the point where, like, you're clingy, or you're like, make sure you text me when you get home. Make sure, after a drive, like, make sure you let me know. I want to make sure you're safe at home, that you got home. That kind of thing. So, even that can be nice. That's a nice thing to do for people, that you care about them in that way. But if you feel that that's like kind of a paranoia or like a thing that you have to do, like you have to know they're safe, you have to know they're still like there, it would stem from this. This can also mean the fear of someone dying, like unreasonably too. It can mean like, oh, like maybe you feel like, I don't know, just like you're just scared of someone you love passing away, getting in an accident, you know, some weird stuff like that going through your mind, like you get flashes of imagery or anything like that, thoughts, it would stem from here. So again, we're looking at paranoia and fear of loss or death or anything like that. And it feels like of other people rather than yourself. Keep that in mind. This can also mean that you might distance yourself or might make it hard for people to get close to you. And it feels like it'd be more romantically than not, but that doesn't necessarily mean it. It could mean like just friends in general, like people you like get close to you. And you might not know why, and it could be that this person got close to you, so anyone that gets close to you means that there's the potential of loss, even more potential of loss, like that kind of thing. So if you find that it takes a while to get close to someone, or you make them work for it, or you put space until, you know, like for a while, whatever it is, when it comes to putting up walls with people, that would be a direct connection. An opposite connection would mean that you are just like, love, 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 love everybody, come be my friend, and I love you, and I will love you always, and now, and immediately, and you know what I mean? So it could be like the opposite connection where you're just like, because this person had to numb themselves and put the wall up, your soul has come back to just be like a lover, 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 you know what I mean? So keep that in mind and keep making connections where you can when it comes to this, because I feel like there's something about romance here too. So if there's any theme in your life when it comes to romantic partners and you're dealing with issues as far as either one, being possessive, territorial, clingy, which we're taught is negative, but when we look at the big picture, it's just a residue in your memory from other times when you've lost people. So if you're that way with romantic partners, this is why. On the other hand, you could be someone again who is having trouble committing to romantic partners in a way where once you commit, that means that, okay, I care about you like even more, and so the loss would be greater, you see? So it can all connect here. So keep that in mind, and we're going to move ahead to the next important day, but keep making connections where you can. So on this day, it's the conquered, they have come, welcome card kind of thing. So this usually means there's like newcomers coming into the territory, and it's either they're there for good or bad, so to speak. And the feeling here is a soul group. And actually that was the relationship. The feeling is torn. The relationship is soul group. The feeling is torn. So this is an interesting thing. There is a feeling here because there are people who are, it almost feels like they were sent over to your community. So let's say these people, let's just say people from Lemuria came over to the main hub of Atlantis. And the people there kind of took stock of them, and they're like, you know, you're farmers over there, you grow things, this isn't really the right place for you. Maybe you should go to the community in the south and speak with them about joining them and helping with the crops or helping with the fishing, or right? So it feels like you're getting newcomers who are coming in. It feels more like an ally kind of thing, and they're coming in and they fit in so seamlessly there. In fact, they help you guys. Like their knowledge that they bring is so helpful to you as well. There's an exchange of knowledge. It feels very seamless and natural and lovely. And that's why the soul group card is there, is because they were meant to come at this time to be with you guys. They bring their own energy. You guys mingle. It works. And the feeling is torn because you've never known people to come outside of Atlantis into Atlantis. This has never happened before. So this kind of rocks up your whole idea of what it's like to live in this peaceable community that you're committed to with the same people. You know what I mean? Like you're so used to the same thing, the same patterns. The sun rises and sets with the same patterns and routines. So this kind of rocks the boat a little bit, even though it does feel very natural. You get along with them. It's still new. It's still like a mini little culture shock, you know? Because again, it feels like you don't travel outside of your community either. You really haven't seen other kinds of people. So these people are new kinds of people. They come in. And so you just feel torn at first because, again, you just went through a numbing effect, and now you have to kind of open your senses to feel these people out. And you're like, do I open up? Do I let him in? You see everyone else is getting along so nicely, and it's almost like this idea of you being reserved or feeling like you're outside. It's like that feeling of being in a crowd and feeling isolated at the same time. So if you ever feel that way when it comes to meeting new people or being with a lot of people where you might not know everyone, and you feel like you're just kind of observing or people watching or just taking it in and kind of stepping back mentally and feeling out the situation first kind of deal, if that's your gig, that would be a direct connection, because that's how she's feeling. But this is also a message for you to let you know that it's usually safe. It's usually safe for you to let people in, to give people a chance. It doesn't mean that you are, if it turns out poorly, it doesn't mean you're taken for a fool. It doesn't mean you made the wrong decision or you have bad judgment. It just means you gave them a chance and it didn't work out, and now, okay, it's time to just kind of go your way and let them be. You don't have to commit to anyone you don't want to. You don't have to keep up a facade for people just to make the group comfortable. I know we're taught that, especially women are taught to just like put on a face in order to make everyone comfortable, but you have every opportunity, if you're uncomfortable, to leave. You can leave and the group will be fine without you. It doesn't mean you're not needed or not necessary to people or not loved, but you have to understand the power you have of walking away when you're uncomfortable. You're allowed to walk away from a situation. Don't feel peer pressured to be in a situation that you're not comfortable in. And that goes along with, the judgment of others that we were talking about before, that you're projecting it. Like, even if they tell you to your face, hey, you should have, stayed there and just pretended to have a good time. It's like, no, you don't have to do that. It's fine. That kind of thing, if that makes any sense. So keep that in mind, but overall, this feels like if you are coming across new people in your life now, or are going to soon, or are dealing with it at this time, whatever it is, just give it a chance. Feel it out. Sometimes people are stupid in the beginning and then they open up because, it's really hard for people to be vulnerable and be who they are themselves right away. Because everyone is always dealing with any, kind of form of insecurity. We're human beings, so don't be hard on yourself. But also don't compromise yourself for other people. Don't feel like it's necessary to compromise yourself, and this might take some reprogramming. You might have to realize, oh, I was taught a certain way, I was brainwashed a certain way, and I'm an adult now and I need to make my own choices and live true to my heart and live true to what feels right to me. So I'm not going to compromise myself, and I'm going to basically start to take in my sovereignty and my own power and feel empowered to do what feels right by me. And that's you listening to your intuition. Your intuition will tell you whether it's time to walk away or stay put, you know what I mean? So make sure you're tapping into what your insides are telling you. Keep making connections here where you can. And yeah, okay, and then the last thing I want to mention about this is the feeling of torn. That's where your intuition comes in, is when you're feeling torn. You'll feel torn between what your head is thinking and what your heart is feeling, and it's time to start processing which one is which. And when you can understand your heart and understand that that's your intuition, you'll start to pay attention to that more. It will not lead you astray. Whereas your mind is all about intelligence and reasoning and this and that and doing all these formulas and stuff, and that might not always be the best case. It's time to tap into the heart center for that, the intuition. So keep making connections where you can. We're going to the death card. The death card is natural death. It feels like you just live out the rest of your life. These people stay here the rest of your life. They become part of the community. The community is family. So it feels like you just kind of grow old doing what you do. You're still with the horses. It feels like you actually get to be very old. And it feels like the horses have something to do with that, spending time in their energy, their gentleness, their power, there's something about these animals, then their energy that's very, it causes longevity in your life. You talk with them, you share with them. It's almost like they take some of the aches and pains of the death of this loved one away from you or off your shoulders. So it's almost like giving nature or giving the universe some of the burden that you carry. There's a message in that, because the universe can handle it. That's why we ground ourselves to the earth and we give our toxins and our toxic energy down into the earth, because the earth transmutes it. Nature transmutes toxic energy, so don't be afraid to hand it over, kind of thing. Don't feel like you have to contain it all yourself and deal with it with yourself. You're never alone in that way. So keep that in mind. The lesson here is boundaries, and it's all about where you put up boundaries and where you learn to take them down by listening to your intuition. There are healthy boundaries, there are unhealthy boundaries. This card, I feel, is coming up right now because it's time to make sure you know which are healthy and unhealthy boundaries in your life when it comes to people, when it comes to your own feelings, letting it in or keeping it away, when it comes to feeling like you have to stay put or feeling like it's time to go, that kind of thing. There are boundaries for all kinds of situations, and I feel like this is coming up so that you learn which ones are the healthy and unhealthy boundaries, and by doing that, in order to do that, you have to listen to your intuition, okay? So keep making connections with the boundaries card however you can, and keep making connections overall. And anyway, there is your past life reading. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make some connections here, and thanks for letting me read you.